Welcome to On Topic. Today we're going to be talking about body positivity and self-image. This is
Kay.
and this is
Kenzie.
and we're so glad that you're joining us today. Before you continue, make sure you hit subscribe and also follow me on Instagram for behind the scenes on these little crazies. And we're so, and we're so, and we're so excited that you're watching today. Hey friends, I am so excited to talk about today's topic. This topic about body positivity and self-esteem has been on our radar and our to-do list since we dreamt about creating a YouTube channel called On Topic. My entire childhood, I had death spoken over me. And I allowed that death to seep into the deepest parts of who I am. And I allowed those critiques and that hurt to help shape the way that I view myself as a person. And since most of those critiques were related to how I look physically, I really struggled with self-love. I struggled with having a positive body image, and I really struggled with having self-esteem. Crazy is that, how incredibly broken that mindset is. And I know that I am not the only person who have ever struggled with that mindset. That when we doubt our physical self, when we begin to believe that we are not good enough, we're not pretty enough, we're not thin enough, we look for these external things to affirm, even for a short time, that we are. And there are days where I wake up and I just feel so bleh, and I doubt myself, and I try to find my identity and my self-worth and love for myself in how I appear physically. And that's been a journey I've been walking on. I've had my older daughter is 5.5. She always reminds us of that half. And so even before having her, I knew that I never wanted to be the mom that stood in front of the mirror and cried about how experiencing pregnancy had ruined my body. That sounds terrible, by the way, now that I say it out loud. But I just never wanted to be that person that would stand in the mirror and pick myself apart and have my daughters look at me and pick myself apart. And so making that decision when I was pregnant and then having kids and being really intentional about not critiquing myself in front of them, or not only complimenting their physical body and their physical appearance, has been on our radar, and even my husband's radar. And so some of the things that I have done to really help myself in this process of making sure that I raise two powerful, godly, incredible women is that I want to make sure that I compliment their entire self. Yes, you saw my kids in the intro. They are freaking adorable. But you know what else? They are kind, and they are generous, that they are bold. Those are the parts of who they are that I want to also elevate, that I also want to build up, and I also want to nourish. Is that, yes, they are adorable, but they are bold, and they are faithful, and they are silly, and they are intelligent, and they're all these things. Because I believe that your self-love, you loving yourself, it has to move past you loving yourself based on how you look physically. Like, let's be real. I had 2 kids 13 months apart. I have what they call mom bod. Like, mom bod is so real for me. I am not a single digit number in pant size. And I am never going to look like I did prior to having kids. And the crazy thing is, why do we expect or have an unrealistic expectation for women to look like they never had kids, that they never experienced the incredible miracle of pregnancy? Why would we expect them and have unrealistic expectations for look like they never went through that they never carried and delivered a child, that the idea of having to bounce back, that's bananas to me. Can I just say to you that you are not extraordinary because how you look. You are extraordinary when you are kind. When you take the time to slow down to see people that other people miss. When you take the time to make a phone call to somebody because you thought of them and you felt like you needed to talk to them, to encourage them and to pray with them. That is what makes a person beautiful. But like everybody else, we struggle with that, right? Especially when culture has a set standard of beauty. And so maybe this is just a video for myself, and for my girls when they grow up to watch, as a reminder that how you look physically cannot be the solo measure of beauty. It cannot be the solo measure in which you determine if you love yourself or not. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for health because I'm trying to live a super long life. While we're talking about balance, I think it's important to talk about a balance between all the parts of who you are. You're not just a physical being, but you are a physical being, and you are mental, and you are emotional, and you are spiritual, and there are different parts that make up who we are. And I believe that it's important to be balanced with all those things. We live in a culture where we celebrate, like we go bananas for people when they get physically healthy. But there's a stigma for people who want to be mentally healthy. There's a stigma and a judgment for people who want to get right spiritually. There's a stigma, but hey, not for the physical self, because in our day and in our age, we elevate the physical self. In everything, we elevate the physical self. But that can't be the only part of self that is elevated. It cannot be the only part of who you are that exists or matters. And so I'm just going to share with you things that I do, things that I'm really intentional about. And I hope that it encourages you. I hope that you would practice some of these things. And I hope that when you leave this video, that you would remember that you are more than your physical self. That you are beautiful, not just because of your physical self, not just because you have reached you've reached a certain level of physical acceptance. So here's some of the things that I do. I mentioned in the previous videos, but this is the last video that we're doing on kind of beauty and body. So one of the first things is I regularly, intentionally do not wear makeup at all. In this video, I have no makeup on. The last thing I put on my face was sunblock. Then there are days where I don't wear makeup because I wake up feeling like trash and I don't want to hide behind makeup. So the days when I wake up feeling like that, I intentionally don't do my hair. I intentionally don't do my makeup. I get dressed and I go out and I love people and I'm kind to people. Because for me, it's a reminder of myself that I am more than how I look or how I present myself physically and outwardly. I don't have a body mirror in my bedroom. So I actually had my husband put it away in storage because you know what? I realized I spend way less time picking myself apart when there isn't a mirror reflecting all of this when I'm getting changed. I just get changed, leave my bedroom, and I hang out with my kids. So I don't ever put a body mirror in my bedroom. Actually, the only mirror I have is a tiny one that I use for putting on my makeup. And when I wake up and I feel like trash, I mentioned that I don't wear makeup, but I often spend seasons of the year just with no makeup on. I believe in letting my skin breathe, that's even a thing, but I always want to remain balanced and remember that, I enjoy doing makeup, but makeup isn't what makes me beautiful or attractive. I have really made progress for myself in really not caring about the size that's on my pants or the size shirt that I wear, the size dress that I wear. Because one, women's clothes sizing is just trash. It doesn't even make sense. But I want to wear what's comfortable. I want to be joyful that I found a shirt that I love and not be sad that maybe it's a size larger than my other shirts. I just want to find what fits comfortably on my body and embrace it, because what's better than physical beauty is confidence. Confidence in yourself. This is an on-topic video about my journey with learning self-acceptance about how I look physically and embracing the way that God has made me, and really coming to terms with the fact that, in this season of my life, I'll be honest, the last place I want to be is the gym. That right now, my number one priority in caring for myself is seeing a counselor weekly to work through trauma that I've experienced as a child. That is my number one. So the way that I'm caring for myself mentally, emotionally, spiritually by seeing this counselor. And there's other ways that I'm caring for myself in these 3 arenas. Like having healthy boundaries with people, and resting and creating margin. And in my physical self, how I'm caring for that balance is I go on regular walks with my family. How I care for myself physically is I don't run myself to the ground because I can't say no to people and their obligations for me. Because again, your physical self isn't just how your body and how it looks on the outside, but it's also making sure that you rest and you drink water, and you know when to say no, because you know when your body needs to sleep instead of play, and then you know when your body needs to play instead of sleep. But no one knows these balances more than you. But what that really does require of you and of me is that we slow down to ask ourselves really hard questions. We slow down to ask if the reason why we're not seeking help for our mental self is fear and maybe the fear of what you might uncover. Maybe why you don't want to care for your emotional self is that you don't feel like your emotions are worthy of acknowledgement. Maybe you don't want to care for your spiritual self because you're afraid that those who are spiritual will judge you. And maybe you're in a place where you're not taking care of your physical self because you're lazy, or because there's been some stuff that you aren't willing to acknowledge, or whatever it is. This video is meant to encourage you. This video is to, even for myself, to know that I am in process, that there are days where I feel great and there are days where I don't, but what I'm working towards is never finding value in who I am based on how I look. I'm going to end the video with this question that I've been reflecting on and has been at the forefront of my mind ever since somebody asked me. It was when I was a youth pastor, we had a guy come into our staff and just talk about ministry and stuff. And one of the questions that he asked us is, when you walk into a room full of people you know and don't know, or full of people that you don't know, what do you rely on the absolute most? And the first thing that popped into my head is, I rely on how I look. Boom. And he just said, if you rely on anything other than the Spirit of God who is dwelling in you, who is with you, who goes before you, then you're relying on the wrong thing. And that tore me up. That wrecked me. And that's been something that I've constantly had to check in my spirit when I go out anywhere. And I would like to challenge you with that question. When you go out in public, when you go into a new space, you go into any situation, what do you rely on the most? I have 2 little amazing little girls, tiny typhoons. My tiny typhoons. And I want them to grow up in a world where they are confident and they are comfortable in who God has made them to be. And then that I would be a great example for them about being positive about the way that God has made their physical body, and for them to remember that what matters the most should be kindness, should be how we love people, it should be how we care for people, and it should be how we show compassion. Girls, can you say bye?
Bye.
Also, make sure you hit subscribe.